Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to our final webinar for the Masterclass Systems Change Masterclass webinar series. And this webinar is Well-Being for Well-Doing. So our topic today is well-being. We're going to admit those who are joining us via Zoom onto the call now. And we're going to allow folks a few more minutes to join the call. So thank you for your patience. Hello, Karen. Welcome to the call. Welcome, Sarah. We're going to allow folks a few more minutes to join the call, and we will start our presentation very shortly. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for joining.
Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Or good. So for some of us is morning, for some of us is...
Yeah, actually here is morning in Mexico City.
Yeah. We have folks on the call all the way from Mexico City all the way to Mombasa. So there's
okay.
a time difference.
Yes, definitely.
Excellent. Okay, so we're 1 minute.
So Mark, you will send me in the break rooms for Spanish break rooms, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll create those, for everyone.
Perfect. Thanks.
Sure, you're welcome. All right. Okay, we'll get started. Actually, I'll go ahead and sort of kick off my announcement, which I'll also make at the end of the call. This is the last webinar in the program. I just want to take the moment to recognize all of you all who have been consistent in joining these webinars. This is 6 months of programming, a lot of content. So those of you all who have been able to be engaged, we really appreciate you. Really appreciate all of the teams at Ashoka that have been working on this since early this year. And just thank you for your patience with us, as this is our first time conducting this type of programming due to COVID. So I wanted to announce briefly that we will follow up after this webinar with steps on receiving your certificates for participating in the program. And we're going to ask you to contact your country rep to schedule an exit interview. And we hope to host the exit interviews between January 15th and February 15th. And we're going to ask during those interviews for some key deliverables, which I will put in the follow-up communications. So yeah, we're winding up the program, and I'm happy to announce that we are offering certification to those who are able to provide key deliverables. And during this period between now and the end of February, when we will have when we will provide this certificates, we also want to offer you an opportunity to connect with me or connect with your country rep if you need any help on any of the deliverables. We're here to support you. So I'll make that announcement again for those of you who are just joining. We are 4 minutes after the hour, so I'm going to give it to Zara to kick us off.
Thank you, Mark. So once again, I want to take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome to everyone for joining us on what will be the last of our webinars in the 2020 Amex Masterclass series. With that said, my name is Zahra Lethome. I have been the regional coordinator in East Africa for the Amex webinars, together with my colleague, Mr. Chris Rasugu, who is the finance manager at Ashoka East Africa. With that said, I don't want to waste any more time. I'll go straight to it, which is to introducing our guest speakers for today's session, which is on well-being. With us today, we have the opportunity of having the executive director and founder of Global Trauma Project, who also happens to be an Ashoka Fellow here in East Africa, Miss Ilya Yasevich, joining us all the way from the coastal region in Kenya. And with her is her colleague Anita Shankar, who is joining us all the way from the US. Anita is the senior director at Global Trauma Project as well. With that said, I would like to pass it over to Anita and Ilya. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zara. Thank you so much. And we're so happy and excited to be here with all of you today. We've been hearing wonderful things about this group and the journey that you've been taking together. And so this will be also an interesting journey for us as we continue to navigate all of the different technologies that are coming about with all of this remote learning and everything. So even as much as I think that I know how to use all of the technology well, sometimes it seems that I don't. So let's see how that part goes today. So thank you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually share my screen to get to our presentation. Come on here. Share screen. And then let's see. Hope this works okay. Okay. So hopefully, can all of you see my screen okay now and see the presentation? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. The only thing is that then I can't see if I try to see all of you, I'm gonna block a whole bunch of my screen. So normally I so much love seeing everybody's faces. It really helps to keep things feeling alive and real. But in this case, I think we have to minimize that and so that you can see the screen. So my name is Ilya Yasevich. As Zara said, I'm director at Global Trauma Project. I'm based in Kwale, Kenya. And I'm really happy to be with you all, whether it's morning or evening or afternoon, depending on the time zone that you're in. Today's session is on well-being for well-doing and enhancing wellness for change-making. And one thing that we've heard is that all of you on this call, and hopefully others that may join in later, are working as amazing change makers and really doing so many wonderful projects and work around the globe to create positive impact. So in that regard, I just get goosebumps. I'm very excited to be with all of you, an amazing and powerful group. And we also know that this work is tough and hard and challenging, and we're driven a lot by vision and love and heart and commitment. But for many of us, maybe not all of us, but I think for a lot of us, we there's a lot of challenges that also come up, and especially probably for a lot of you who are in kind of leadership positions, directors or founders of things that I think a lot of us carry a lot of stress with that and those roles that also can be unique. And so today, hopefully, we're going to go through this session today. Actually, the biggest thing is that it should be for you, for your own benefit, for your own well-being. And a chance for you to kind of reflect on yourself and kind of see how you're doing and what you might need. And then secondly, is to also be able to give you some skills and tools that we'll do with you, but that then you can take back to your teams and actually facilitate with them, to reflect with them and practice some different things to deepen well-being within your work and teams and organization. So I think that's our goal for this hour and a half that we're with you today. And I think with that, I am going to hand it over to Anita.
Great. Good morning. I'm calling in from California and so thrilled to be here with all of you because we are living our work. It was funny when Mark said that this is the last webinar, and I thought, oh, this should be the first webinar because it's a consistent theme in our personal lives, in our professional lives, because we as well doing entrepreneurs really need to focus on our own well-being. And my favorite quote these days is, a ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are for. So as we power through the end of the year for 2020, I sometimes have the tendency to curl up in a ball and think, oh my goodness, I can't do this. And then I try to remember, this is what I'm made for. I have these core values and instincts and this passion, and this is what our work is made for. And so we're so thrilled to share that with you today. And similarly, this is what you and your vision and your work is made for. You were chosen for this Amex boot camp to go through this intensive period for a reason. And our goal is not just smooth sailing. Ideally, so Ilya lives in one of the most beautiful beaches on the world. If you ever go to Kenya, you need to be sure to visit her, where there are a lot of boats. And our metaphor is that we want to be adept sailors. We want to glide smoothly, not necessarily glide smoothly. We want to be able to proceed towards our vision, towards our goals with full sails, fully alive, and have a strong boat and frame to support us, good values to guide us to where we're going, but also be adept sailors to know how to navigate the obstacles. Because just like the ocean, our life is not going to be smooth, but we need the structure and we need the foundation and we need the skills to navigate whatever comes our way. And that's our goal in life in general and to talk about today in this webinar. Can you do the next slide, please? Next, this is a click-through animation. Great. So some people daydream about beaches. So this is the beach that we were talking about. Next click. Some people daydream about crushes. Click. Instead of crushes, I've recently found myself dreaming of crashes. That's right. In November, I realized when I was in my car, which is not often because of the pandemic and I'm staying mainly at home, I was daydreaming of being in a minor car crash, not life-threatening, not my fault, but just a minor fender that would put me maybe on the couch or in bed for two days. 2 days, that's all I was asking. And why was I thinking this in my head? Next slide. Can you click, please? This is, I realized, is what I was trying to avoid. So the colorful Post-its on the top left are all the projects that I'm currently doing. I have 19,000 emails in my box, in my inbox. I have meetings at 6 a.m. in the morning and 9 p.m. at night. And the phone case is my old phone case that you can see it was broken, and it was broken so that I could not turn off my phone properly. I couldn't power off, which turned out not to be a problem because I was afraid that if my phone was so full, if I powered off, I was afraid it would not restart. And so when I found myself dreaming of car crashes, I thought, oh my goodness, this is a sign. And I have a dear friend who's in public health and has trained me to say car crashes and not car accidents, because accidents truly are not preventable. There's not something that you can't do anything about it. But car crashes are preventable. And that's what we're going to talk about today, preventing burnout and moving forward from this well of resilience and health rather than kind of steering off the road and crashing. Next slide.
Can I just check with people? Because I'm having like the voice is going in and out. Can I just get like a either a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a medium? Like, can you guys hear okay, or how is it? How is the signal for you guys? There's one thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Or put in the chat as well. I'm looking at the chat.
Oh yeah, most people, everybody, maybe then it's just me. Okay, it's my signal. Great, I'm glad everyone else can hear. Okay, super.
And 2020. So even though we have a good constitution and we could have a good vote and we could have the best intentions, it's been a tough year. And it's not just COVID. You know, COVID has put restrictions on what we can do in our teams and financial and time and health worries. But for a lot of us, it's been more of the same. Some of us are in situations or in funding situations or work situations where we're not quite living our lives with our full sail, and we feel battered and a bit worn down. Ilya, did you want to say more about this?
Just that, you know, one of the things that we'll do today is kind of think a little bit about what are the things that kind of help us, you know, to have this strong vote, this strong structure that can help us to navigate some of the rough waters at times. You know, what helps to give us the strong sail, and what are also things that can create some little tears or little holes in our sail or our boat, and what are things that could create like you know, big holes that could impact us. Yeah, so we'll talk about that.
Great. Is this the beginning of because this is our vision. We want joy. We want aliveness. We want you to do your job well and be your personal self as well as your professional self. But to do that, we want to take a step back and think about what is well-being. Can you go to the next slide, please?
So if you think for a moment about that boat, and you think about the one that's very strong and solid, the canoe is very solid. It keeps afloat very well, and the sail is nice and strong and sturdy. And if you think about that in terms of well-being, yeah, like our own personal well-being, when you hear the word well-being, what does that mean to you? What do you think? What is well-being? What is it about? This webinar is about well-being for well-doing. So what is well-being? So I don't know if any of you have yet used this menti.com. If you have, maybe you can put a little thumbs up in your thing again, so we know if people have used it. But what we would ask you to do right now is to see on your own device, if possible, on your computer or your phone, if you're able to open this website, just www.menti.com. And when you open that site, it's going to ask you to enter a code. And if you enter this code, 6782578, it's going to give you a question where you'll type in your answers about what does wellness mean to you? How would you describe wellness? And from that, we'll see the responses of everybody. So I'm going to give everybody a moment to do that. If you can go to the menti.com and enter this code. let me see how to put it up here. Oh yeah, great. So now hopefully you can see this is what we're getting. What does well-being mean to this group? And on this one, the bigger words are ones that more people listed, and the smaller words are ones that maybe one or two people listed. So we have a lot about peace and calmness, yeah, tranquility, feeling alive, serenity, love around yourself, centeredness, balance, happy with the surroundings, feeling satisfied, connected, alive, being stable in mind, stability, feeling satisfied, happy, whole, thriving. Balance. The ones in French, I'm not going to try, but the French readers will know them well. I don't
interior peace, interior calm.
Yeah, internal peace, right? So if we think, if that's what we're talking about today, these are really the things that we're talking about today, right? How do we strengthen and continuously cultivate these things within ourselves? Knowing that we're going through life, and life again has ups and downs and stressors, and also knowing that in the work that we're doing as social entrepreneurs and global change makers, we are also knowing that we are entering a challenging space, yeah, because we're there to actually create change and not just stay. What was Anita's quote? The boat in the harbor. We are a group of people here who are not just keeping our boats parked in the harbor. We are people who are intentionally, passionately taking our boats into the rough seas for a reason, for a purpose. So, so we'll keep this in mind. These are the things that we are trying to cultivate. What happened? There we go. Okay.
I think you just explained.
Yeah. Yeah, and so one of the things we also that we want to think about is what are some of the different things that can help to create that sturdy boat for ourselves, our strong structure, and to strengthen our well-being. And in this image, if you look at, we kind of talk in our work about, the different levels and circles of support, or multi-layers of support that can help us with our own well-being. And, on one level, we have our own kind of individual self, internal state, our own personal activities, and within our immediate family. And then as we broaden out and thinking about things that may happen or be available within our external family structures, our friends, and those that we really surround ourselves with. Next, thinking about those who are within our community systems, and those, whether it be in places of worship or schools, or our medical providers, or what in a broader way, what kinds of things and places and people can help to support our well-being. And lastly, looking at even our broader systems, structures, policies, what may need to even be put in place sometimes in order to help us to be okay and stable and secure. And so sometimes I think in our work as change makers, and if you think for yourself, you may be working on one or two or multiple levels related to this within your change making work. And so we're going to take a moment and actually do a breakout. So the Ashoka team is going to break us out into breakout groups in just a moment. And what we'd like to do, actually, let me see here. So Chris, are you going to be breaking us out into the breakout rooms?
I can do it.
Okay, great. So can you just tell me about how many people will be in each breakout room?
Let me see here. Maybe I can ask you this question. How many people do you prefer to be in a breakout room?
Well, how many people do we have on the call right now?
We have 15. Now, just keeping in mind that we want to put folks in breakout room based on their language.
Language, yeah. So I would say, I mean, if we could do like 3 people in a breakout, and then we would have like around 5 breakout rooms. If that works with the languages, something around 3, if possible, that would be super.
Okay.
But I'll explain this one while you're looking at how you will break them. So in the first breakout room here, if there's about 3 people on, we'd like to give you, about, I think we'd like to give you just about 5 minutes. So just like 1 to 2 minutes per person. But we'd like you just to think for yourself for a moment about what are the things for you that help to create a strong boat and a strong sail? What are the things for you in your life that help give you a strong structure, help keep you afloat, and help you to navigate the roughness, the toughness, and keep you kind of on track and moving ahead in a good way? And you're going to share those answers with each other, and you'll have about 5 minutes to do that. So Mark, are we okay? Can we go into the breakouts?
Yes.
Okay, great. And we'll give you a 1-minute warning before you need to come back, just so that you make sure that you've heard from each person in your group.
And Ilya, can you also put those directions in the chat?
Yeah. Anita, can you type those into the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put everyone in their breakout rooms, and I'll update the chat accordingly. So stand by, please. Okay, so they're in the breakout rooms.
They're all in a breakout room?
Yep.
It looks like they're still here. And then how do we see the chat while we're still on this screen share? Can you guys see it? Am I the only one that can't?
I can see it, yes.
I'm trying to see if there's, Anita, can you see the chat?
Yeah, I'm in the chat.
Folks, please go in the breakout rooms.
Because I can't see it. Anita, I can't see the chat. So
if you click on the chat, it should pop up.
Okay. Oh, maybe I can keep it on the side. I'm just trying to see how to do it without covering, you know, a lot of the screen.
Maybe you can stop sharing your screen. That could help. Now you may be able to
Yeah.
see. So, okay, great. So I'm gonna copy and paste this message into the breakout rooms. Okay, great. Yeah, well, I am going to put you in a breakout room. I think you're French speaking, so let me see. Breakout rooms. 2. All right, Yawo, please go to your breakout room. Zara, can I put you in the English breakout room?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me do that.
You can add me too.
Okay. I'll add you. Here you go. Great.
Right.
Anita, do you want to be added? Should we be also added to a breakout room? I think it would be nice, Mark, if maybe if Anita and I could each be added to separate English breakout rooms.
Actually only one English breakout room.
Oh.
Definitely like 3. Let me see. There's about 3 participants.
There's 3 English speakers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
4.
maybe maybe on the next one, then Anita and I can be added to that one, so
Yeah,
that we
well, I
can
could break them up. I could break up those. Like I could put because if we have Chris and Zara, I can put 3 or 2 and 2 plus.
No, go ahead and put them together. I don't want to share. I don't want us to share just because of time and everything. I more just want to know kind of have some idea what they're kind of talking about, so that we can kind of it helps us to be connected with people and know where we're going.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that, like, I think since we have Zara and Chris, and then we have 4 English speakers, and then we have you two, I can just sort of split it up. Otherwise, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll have about 8 people in one breakout room. Does that about?
Oh, okay. So otherwise you'll have like 3 and 3, and then Anita and I would be the 4th one in each of them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Is that okay for you, Anita?
Sorry, I didn't hear that about the breakout rooms. I heard the numbers, but I didn't hear the first part.
I'm just saying that in the upcoming ones, you and I could be added to English speaking breakouts, so that we
if the
can,
numbers work.
Yeah, he's just figured that out, how to do it. Okay, great. Are we almost at 5 minutes?
Yes.
And that's a question, I guess, Mark. I guess since you guys were doing the breakouts, we assumed that you would be timing them, your team as well. Do you need us to time them, or are you guys timing them?
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I just didn't know. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. So how
that's
long
okay.
should they be there? 5 minutes?
Yeah, we'll just say for each one, but right now I think if you just tell them that they have 1 minute left, and then they'll automatically come back.
Okay, so I should just close the rooms because that gives.
Close the breakout room. Yep, please.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think you give them it gives them a timer, right? Like a 1 minute left.
Yeah, 60 seconds.
Great. And Anita, you can check your WhatsApp. Okay.
Okay. Looks like folks are coming back now. I think we have everyone back now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for handling that part of things, Mark. As people are coming back, if you all would mind, maybe just putting in the chat, just because I know when we all try to talk on here, sometimes it gets a little bit difficult, unfortunately. But if you could just, if you all would mind putting some things in the chat about, yeah, how was that conversation? Did you notice anything for yourself that feels really important or helpful in that regard, or did you hear anything from anyone else that you thought, oh gosh, I haven't thought about that? Time was too short. Time was so short. Okay, that's great. That's good for us to know. So we'll give a bit more time on the other ones. Anything else? So the time was really short. Did anything come out of it, or was the time just too short?
And were there any commonalities between your stories or differences that you noticed?
We'll see if we can get a few more responses coming in. Oh, Karen, nice. Karen's saying, like, what I noticed is that as I spoke about what keeps me afloat, I felt a sense of peace. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes just by actually like focusing on some of those things that bring us stability and groundedness and centeredness, it actually cultivates that and strengthens it within ourselves. So that, yeah, that's really good one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Chris. Karen, do you want to say any more about that? Or
Yes, I can. So in my group, we talked about various things, and mine were spirituality, the element of meditation, taking nature walk, and then having moments of solitude and journaling. So I've done that severally, and usually that is a place I take myself to. So as I was describing to my group members about what I do, I could picture mentally some of those things like nature walk, journaling, and what those things do to me and for me. And so I just felt a sense of peace and serenity. Yes, thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's really lovely, Karen, because even though you weren't involved in the activities at that moment, the thought of the activity, excuse me, brought you a sense of peace.
Thank you.
Oops, I have to go back to share screen. I'm going back to share screen.
I love it. Daniel says his group was happy people. Love it.
Oh, they had a lot of. Daniel, do you want to
Happy
say
people.
something brief about it?
Spread the happiness, Daniel.
Daniel speaking. Yeah, when I started the group, at least it started with at least some kind of jokes, and it showed like everyone was like in a good state. And when they started sharing experiences, we're beginning like to get simply caught up in the sharing of experiences of the way we handle being afloat, and kaboom, time was short, 60 seconds. No, that was the only thing. So I was just laughing. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you for sharing. And I want to remark on two things. One, I think you're outside taking a walk, which is like my favorite thing to do and one of my self-care mechanisms. But I found myself at the current level of stress right now, even that wasn't enough. And so that's why I was daydreaming of car crashes and making it go away. But of course, I had to take the situation and build those coping skills. The other thing that you alluded to was the concept of social support, of sharing it with other like-minded people and being inspired from them, which is also part of our job. And having that social support, both in times when times are good, but also creating those networks to get us through the rough seas.
Yeah, let me just simply add something. Like personally, there are times whereby I've been so much on the edge, and like I started out documenting how do I handle myself, how do I come up with such situation, how do I adapt to situations. So like I resorted to start writing a book, the Living Life on the Edge. So it kind of like brings in like a journey. So like I'll give you just a brief experience. Like so when I was flying from Massachusetts, from Boston to Nairobi, I met these girls and they were kind of like depressed at the airport in Doha. So I was like, they didn't have like a direction. They were so much distressed. So I started reading out for them like my poems, and they're like, it's like you're speaking to me. I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling happy. I'm getting the kind of new direction. And like, it gives a kind of encouragement. So in whatever kind of challenge that you face, at least there is that point whereby you can be able to leverage on to jump onto the next step. And that comes from the physical state. And I mean, in case you're at peace with the surrounding, then you are at peace with yourself, and then it begins to spread automatically. I see that as a different way of life. Yeah. And me, I like the outside environment. I love nature. And that's part of me. Yeah. Those are just my few remarks.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that. I even noticed my my state, my feeling changing as I was listening to you talk. And just thinking about that, like that living life on the edge, and the way that you're questioning, like reflecting, really like almost like being a detective, and looking at when I'm really going through a hard time and dealing with major stress, how do I cope with it? And it's almost like you're investigating yourself, like really like, yeah, what works, and it's just, that's such a fantastic a way to approach things, because then you're really learning about yourself. You're seeing, you're like, you can do experimentations, and I just found that very inspiring, what you were just saying.
And also being a detective, but with kindness and curiosity. So really a chance to reflect of what is going on with me and what's underneath. What's underneath this feeling right now? What's going on? And we'll talk about more. What do we need? If we're not where we want to be at, how can we navigate differently? So thank you for sharing.
So, so continuing, this is great, and we'll give you guys a little bit more time in the next sessions. So we've been thinking about, and you started a little bit discussing about what really, you know, gives you that kind of strength and keeps you afloat. And now we are going to think a little bit too, and be able to reflect a little bit about what are some of the things that are challenges to our well-being, because that's also real, you know, that's also a part of life. A lot of things happen in life, just personally, you know, depending on our lives, our families, the background we come from, where we're living. But then also, again, related to the work that we're doing as social entrepreneurs and change makers and in leadership positions, big things come along with that. And then on top of all of that, we also have this pandemic going on that for many people, myself hugely included, it has stripped away a lot of those things that I have kind of held on to that have helped me, you know, to navigate some of that. A lot of those things have been kind of taken away through the COVID and restrictions and things as well. So we want to give a chance to also look at this a little bit. And in a moment, we're going to go back to the Mentimeter. We have this image here of, we call it the sticks and bricks. And so, you know, this, whether you look at this woman who's carrying kind of this bundle of firewood, or the mason who's carrying, you know, a load of bricks. Like we said, I mean, their stress is a part of life. It's a normal part of life, you know. So it's not usually that we go through all of life with not carrying any kind of sticks or bricks, right? We do. It's a part of life. But the thing is that if as that weight gets heavier, if we keep piling on more and more, you know, a heavier bundle, more sticks, more bricks, our load gets heavier, it will start to weigh us down. Things will start to be more challenging. We will feel heavier, and things will become harder. And as we progress, you know, if we keep adding more weight without removing some of it, we can end up going closer towards this, you know, this part over here on the right, where we get more towards the 3 and the 4, where we can actually then, you know, hit a level of collapse, right? Or breakdown, or just total burnout or exhaustion. And then, you know, so one thing I'm going to ask us to do right now is for everybody to just kind of notice, take a moment. If you want, you can even just kind of take a few breaths and just kind of notice inside yourself and with how you're feeling. It can be how you're feeling at this moment, or how you're feeling these days in general. How are you doing? How heavy is the load that you're carrying right now? Where do you feel that you're at? And then as you do that, I'll ask you to pull up that same website, and the same code. But I think, Anita, just check me out here, because I think I have to switch. Yeah. Okay. So now see if you can get it.
Excuse me, it brought back this is the previous question about well-being. So how do we do to navigate to the next question?
Anita, can you say that?
It brought back the same question when I went to the Menti website. Yeah. So how do I go to the next question?
It should be able to do that. I'm trying on my phone right now, and I will let you know how it goes. Great. You may have to try refreshing, because when I put on my code, oh, good. So it is working now. So try refreshing or clicking next question.
Are you seeing now how to get to it?
And feel free to put in the chat as well if you don't want to use Mentimeter. One of the benefits of Menti.com is we can't see who says what. And in certain groups, that level of anonymity is extremely important. But part of our work also is breaking down the stigma of talking about mental health. We all have mental health, and we see it as a social justice issue to have access to the support and information and resources for us to take care of our own health, both on an individual well-being and on a community well-being. So I will I will easily say I was having daydreams of car crashes. It's really embarrassing. And I only realized that about 2 weeks ago, but we think it's important to talk about these issues and create those networks of support. So if you prefer to put it in the group chat, feel free to do that.
But I think we'll give just another moment in case there's a few, because I don't think everyone's had a chance to respond. But of those that have, you know, I think we're seeing a lot kind of on this 3 to 4 level. There we have one person so far that's kind of at that 1.5. Good, okay. Is that enough? Is it enough time? We still didn't get, there's still some people who haven't had a chance to respond. But I don't know if everyone has, if the technology is working okay for everyone or not. But I think, but anyway, regardless, I think we can see though that as a group, you know, we can kind of get a sense of where we are on the whole. And also to notice, you know, are you, you know, if you're, you know, for the 2 people that are kind of in the 1.5 to 2.5 range, I mean, that's a really nice state to be in a sense, because, you know, it's not too heavy. Although, you know, 2.5 is kind of right in the middle. But for those that are over also on this kind of, you know, 3 to 4, you know, one thing to notice is that you're not alone. You know, you have a whole lot of people, because especially if we think this is a very small representation that, you know, can probably be somehow generalized maybe to a much larger group. You're not alone. There's a lot of people that are in this kind of boat right now. And get out of here. There we go. And so one of the things that we talk about is that the first thing that's really important is to be able to just notice and be aware of where we're at. Like Anita, when you talked about the, you know, it took you a while to even kind of recognize that you were having these thoughts. Like you were probably having them a bit, but then, because I think I was talking to you one day when you said, oh, actually, guess what? I've been having these thoughts of like these kind of weird little fantasy of like getting into a minor car crash, and even if I had to be laid up in the hospital a couple days so that I could just stop everything. Like that.
It took me a while to reflect on it, and it took me more time to admit it. to other
Yeah.
people. And then once I did, there was that sense of release. Like, it's out there. This is my truth. And what was important for me is that it wasn't my normal. In general, I can handle my load very well. In general, I have feelings of competence. But it was a chance to reflect that this is not my normal and I need to do something about it.
Yeah. So hold on a minute, everyone, because we're gonna give you a moment to go into more breakout groups and discuss some of these things, but we want you to be able to discuss a little bit more. I guess let me go back to this. Okay. So we use this image here on the top. This one on the left is kind of representing, you know, a situation of trauma. You know, really, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. There's a lot of us who have gone through, you know, a lot of different types of traumatic things in our lives, or different things. Unfortunately, it's there. And this other one is representing this load of what we call compounded stress. It's a buildup of various types of stressors, right? That might not be traumatic in and of themselves, but that as the stress builds up, as we add more and more sticks, it can still have the same kind of effect on our system as a major trauma could have. Yeah. And we won't talk too much today about you know, all of the different types of trauma and those kinds of things. We'll leave it kind of simple at that for now. But these are some of the different things that we can experience and that can impact us and our well-being and our functioning, and also our capacity to be effective change makers. And so if you look at this wheel, we have some different things here, because the ways that trauma and stress can impact us, it's not just set. Yeah. So this one here, you know, is kind of representing that we can be impacted physically. We can start to have physical symptoms within our body, you know, headaches, stomach aches, digestive issues, diarrhea, fatigue, you know, these things physically that can happen. Another thing is emotionally. We can start having impacts emotionally, where I start feeling very maybe hopeless, or I don't have I'm not motivated anymore. I feel a lot of despair. I feel anxious a lot. I am getting tearful, or I feel angry. I'm so frustrated and I'm irritated all the time. I'm angry. I'm and have a lot of, you know, different emotions. This one here, the person here is having these kind of nightmares, or waking up in the night with these dreams. This is about kind of how it affects our cognition, our mental state, and our thinking. So our thoughts can be changed. You know, we can start having, Anita's been having car crash thoughts, right? We can be having disruptions to our sleep because of nightmares, lose concentration, inability to focus, having a lot of kind of repetitive, anxious kind of thoughts, loss of memory, which is one of mine. Anita knows that some memory issues. This one here is really talking about impacts to our behavior and our sense of spirituality. These are two other areas that can be affected, where you might notice that some of your behavior or your actions or the things that you're doing are changed. Are you doing things more, or not doing things that you normally would or would like to? And is your sense of, you know, connection to something greater, whether it's to your religion, you know, religious beliefs and faith, or your greater sense of spirituality? Has that become altered in some kind of way, more or less? Or have your views or faith kind of, has it changed in some way? And the last one here is also about relationships, our interactions with other people, where we can become more mistrustful or more clinging and holding on because I feel more anxious and I just, need somebody to be there. Or am I isolating more? Am I, did I stop reaching out? Am I getting more argumentative? Is it escalating even into even aggression or violence? So this is another thing that we're going to give you a chance to kind of discuss, but I want to just give you a chance right now, again, just to take a couple breaths as you're sitting in your spot, and see if you can kind of reflect on yourself and kind of, again, how you're doing these days. And if there's any of these that you feel like have been kind of affected for you, are you having any kind of physical stuff going on? How are you doing emotionally? How is your, your thinking and cognition? How's your connection with your, spiritual life and with other people, your relationships, and how you're behaving? Yeah. So again, we're going to have some time to discuss some of this, but I'm just going to run us through a few things first, and then you'll get a chance.
Can I jump in for just a moment about
Yes.
About our bias that I'm noticing now? It's the reflection is so important. So even looking at this diagram now, which we had drawn about 5 years ago, and noticing our blind spots from then, for instance, it's all mainly male characters and also mainly negative impacts of trauma. But even in tough times, there can be positive effects. So for instance, for some people, this pandemic has brought a sense of ease. It has brought a sense of connection because they're home and they're not traveling all the time. It may have brought new opportunities. So note to selves, while we're adjusting this image, we need to be more gender sensitive, which we are in our new images, but we also need to discuss that there are pros and cons to every situation. And that's, once again, our goal, not to smooth out the seas, but to have the skills to navigate whatever is in front of us.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm just going to say a little bit more about how these kinds of stressors and challenging experiences can actually impact our neurobiology, how it actually can change our brain. And so one thing is that when we experience something as a real kind of danger or threat, or something that could be a threat to us, physically, but more than that. But it could also be that something that's kind of a threat to my well-being, my family or my children's well-being, my mental or emotional state. Yeah. When that happens, it activates a part of our brain, the limbic system. It's where we kind of get this stress response, and we call this the survival brain, to make it a bit simple. But as our survival brain gets activated, it's also activated by our stress hormones. We start getting our stress chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol. The stress chemicals are coming up more throughout our body. And there's another part of our brain, which is represented by this green part on the image, which is here in our prefrontal cortex, that is about we call it our thinking brain. And our thinking brain is actually in charge of everything we need for our amazing work, right? It's about problem solving and decision making and strategizing and rational thought and reasoning skills and, future planning. All of these things happen kind of up here in as executive functions in the prefrontal cortex, or the thinking brain. But the interesting thing is that when our survival brain gets activated and those stress chemicals are going through our body, there's something that happens to our thinking brain. And I don't know if anybody can quickly, and it may take too much time because we're short on time, but if you can think about what might happen to our thinking brain when the survival brain is activated. So the thing that happens is that our thinking brain actually shuts down more and more. And it does that because we're hardwired that way as humans. It's to help us survive, right? Because you can imagine, if I'm in Kenya, so if I get out to walk down the road and all of a sudden there's a lion there in front of me, right, staring me down and ready to pounce, I don't have time to think about that. I can't be like, what? Wait, we don't have lions on this road. Like, I mean, where's the closest national? How did a lion? No, there's no time to think about that, right? My thinking brain needs to shut down. My survival brain needs to activate, and I need to respond. I need to react as quickly as possible, right? And so for people for anyone that's familiar with our survival responses, right, we will be put into a fight, flight, free, or collapse response. Yeah. And this is something that it's important to note, because as those sticks build up, and especially for all of us who may be getting into the 3.5, 4s, you may find that your thinking brain is not working as well as it once did when you were back at a 1 or 1.5. Yeah. That all of those things that we just mentioned in terms of executive functions will be more difficult. Yeah. So just think about that. Does that resonate with you at all? Have you been feeling that in any way? Because we're going to have some time to talk about it. Oh, the other thing here is that as our thinking brain shuts down, it also affects the way that we process our experiences. And so things like how we store those experiences and store our memories also gets affected. So our memory and how we recall things can also become really impacted. So this is something that we use a lot at GTP in our work and trainings and everything, which I think most people are probably very familiar with a thermometer, and that it's something that is used normally for taking our temperature, our body temperature. But in our case, we use the thermometer to look at our energy level and our emotional state. And so in this case, when we are in this green zone here between about 40 and 70, when we're in the green level, things are manageable. It's associated with our thinking brain, right? So our thinking brain is active. It means that I can be angry, I can be sad, I can be worried, happy, I can have any of these emotions, but I'm in control of them. I can manage them. And, my thinking brain is still in charge, right? But sometimes we start to go too high or too low. And as we go higher or lower, our survival brain is becoming more and more active and taking over. So we're no longer in charge of our emotions. It's like they kind of take over. Our survival brain kind of takes over. And you may find yourself doing things, feeling or thinking or acting on things that you wouldn't when you feel really grounded and in good kind of a good state, right? So we talked about when we start to go up to red level, things start to get too intense. Our body gets too activated. Our frustrations may turn into a higher level of anger, but that takes over. So you may find yourself yelling more, being more kind of irritated and aggressive. Some people may become more violent, quick-tempered. And likewise, you may at times find that you're becoming too low and you go down to the blue level, where your energy is too low, you're becoming exhausted, you can't focus, you can't concentrate, you feel more hopeless or helpless, and this can also happen. So one of the things that we focus on a lot is trying to really pay attention to ourselves and seeing where am I at any given moment throughout the day. Where am I at? Am I in the green zone? Am I going towards the red? Am I going towards the blue? And what can I do to help myself kind of, get back kind of closer into the green level? So we're going to do a little exercise briefly, and I'm going to invite you all, if you want to stay seated, you can, but if you want to take a moment to stand up, that could also help. We've been sitting for a long time. And so yeah, if you're standing, if you're sitting, and what I'll invite you to do is, first of all, just to kind of take a stretch. Again, you can do this even if you're still in your seat, but to take a stretch up, take a few breaths, really stretch your muscles. And as you bring your arms down, breathe out slowly. Take a moment and just slowly move your neck in a circle in one direction. And as you're doing this, just see what you notice. See how your body's feeling. Is it tight? Is your neck cracking like mine a bit? Is it feeling loose and fluid? You can go the other direction, move your neck towards the other side. You can also stretch your jaw as you're doing this. A lot of us hold a lot of tension in our jaw and our face. And you can stretch up one more time as you breathe in. And as you breathe out. And then we'll take one more stretch. This time, we're going to take a stretch down. And if you're standing, you can go down. If you're seated, you can even go to the side. So you can stretch to the side. And stretch to the other side. Keep breathing. And then if you like, you can even, just take a stretch down in front of you. Just going as much or as little as you feel comfortable with. And when you come up with your head as the last thing. So you're going to roll up your spine, bringing your head last. And just take a moment and see on the thermometer here, where would you put yourself right now? What number would you give yourself, or in general, where are you at? Are you in the green zone? And you can notice that for this moment. And you can also think about, like, in general, this week, where have you been? Have you been fluctuating up and down, kind of all over the place? Have you been kind of consistently between the green and the red. It's actually, it's kind of like the orange level, you know, have you been kind of living there? Have you been, yeah, I mean, where have you been? Have you been solidly in the green? And from that, you know, there are a lot of different things that we can do to try and help ourselves with, you know, kind of re-regulating, yeah, throughout the day, throughout the week, and to kind of, you know, helping ourselves to kind of come back towards that green level. You know, I mean, you know, I have 2 children, and my children have been home, of course, during this whole quarantine and pandemic, and we have not been in school during any of this time. And I have noticed that trying to work from home, having the children at home, bouncing off the walls, I mean, it's, you know, they're not focused. They're also, you know, they're struggling a bit. They're okay, but they're struggling a bit, you know, with the situation and not having social time or seeing friends or, you know, being occupied well. And it's consistently kind of brought me more into this kind of like orange level, right? Like the in between the green and the red somewhere. I find myself there way more than I would like to, yeah. And so the other thing is that we then like to kind of really think, what do I need right now? Yeah. What are all the different types of things and strategies that I might need to help myself with that? And so these are just some images that we have, you know, thinking about, what do I do physically for myself? Are there things that I do in relationship with other people? Do I take time for myself, and in what ways and how? The time for myself, I mean, for me, that has been completely out the window. And I think it's been what's been contributing to making things hard right now, is because I need more time for myself and I don't feel like I have it, even though I'm primarily at home. But mentally, you know, what are you doing mentally to keep yourself learning and stimulated, and socially in our relationships, we had said, spiritually, you know, what am I doing to connect in that way? And creativity, you know, do I have any creative outlets? That being said, there's, you know, in terms of how we cope up with these things, there are things that we can do that will, in the end, be more healthy and actually promote our well-being further. But there's also things that we can do where we're trying to help ourselves, trying to cope, but that in the end, it could actually lead to more detrimental outcomes, you know. In this kind of work, I think, you know, there's a lot of chemical abuse, alcoholism, drug use, huge, that goes on, at least, you know, in the humanitarian kind of sector, and the development space. A lot of promiscuity and, you know, sexual relationships, that a lot of divorce, a lot of, you know, marriages that are falling apart. So there's a lot of things on that side that can also happen. Oops. So what we're going to do is that we're going to kind of break out. We want to give you guys, again, we're doing this for you today, but we want you to also be able to have some things that you can take back and use with your teams, and take them through. Okay. So, Anita, can you kind of talk through this wellness workshop, this one that we're going to do right now, and give people a chance to get in their groups again to do this. But this is also something that we will give to you, and we would invite you to actually go back and facilitate this with your teams, you know, to help your teams kind of reflect on the individual level. And then you're going to be able to reflect on these things on a team and an organizational level. as well. So Anita, go ahead.
I will. First, I'll think about a quote, which is, "The pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, and the realist adjusts the sails." So even right now in this moment, we are adjusting the sails. So we had planned many different mini breakout rooms to give you a lot of time to talk about a lot of topics, but we're thrilled with the way the workshop went even to this time. It's all good, it's all okay, but we're gonna adjust our sails slightly. And unfortunately, you're only gonna have about 5 minutes total in this breakout room. We had wanted much, much more. But once again, this is a multi-step process, and Ilya and I are always available to be reached out when in support in facilitating this work with your teams. But what we'd like for you to do is, for the next 5 minutes in your breakout room, share some reflections of how this is all landing with you, the image of the sticks and the bricks, the impacts. Are you feeling any impacts of stress and trauma? And once again, it doesn't have to be negative. Maybe there's some things in your life that are going really well right now. Did you relate to the thermometer? How are you in control of your energy and emotions? Do you find yourself on one end of the spectrum, or are you in green level, as we say? And one important factor, as we were talking about the brain and thinking about how the green part, the thinking brain and the executive function, how it's core to learning and leading and relating. It's core to what we're doing as professionals, and also being our personal best selves. And what coping skills do you already have in your life right now, or can you cultivate? And I realize it's an impossible task to discuss all of that in 5 minutes, but we're going to give you a quick chance to connect with each other about some first reflections.
Okay, so Mark, if you can just put them quickly into their breakout groups again.
Sure. Anita, could you also put those directions in the chat so I can share it to the breakout groups? But yeah, I'm ready. The breakout groups are ready to go. So should I open them now?
Yep, go ahead. And actually, Anita, I can stick those in quickly because I have them here.
Okay. So here we go. Fabrice.
What is happening here?